So the interesting question here is that of the relationship between the two approaches, the preference-based approach and the choice-based approach. And the first question that we have is whether rational preferences guarantee that the choices that are generated by the preferences satisfy warp. The answer is here is yes. But in order to understand what it means for a preference relation to generate a choice structure, so remember, choice structure is a description of all possible budget sets and a choice rule. And here we have a choice rule generated by the preference relation, C star. That's our choice structure. And C star here is simply the set of elements from a budget set which are at least as good as every other elements given the rational preference relation. So it's just the set of X element of a particular budget set such that X is at least as good as Y for all Y element of B. Basically, we're looking at the decision maker's preferred alternatives in the budget set. And the answer here is indeed, if the preference relation is rational, then the choice structure will satisfy, the choice structure that's generated by the preference relation will satisfy warp. The second question is not as straightforward. If we have a choice behavior that satisfies warp, do we have underlying rational preferences? And the answer is not clear cut. It's not a clear cut yes. And as it turns out, warp itself is not sufficient to rule out inconsistent choices. So we can satisfy warp and we can still have intransitive behavior. Now, we have to define what it means for a preference relation to rationalize a choice structure. Rationalize a choice structure relative to a budget set. Actually, relative to the set of all budget sets. And we say that it's basically that the choice structure for every budget set, the choice set generated by the preference relation will coincide with what's actually chosen. So we have C of B, what's actually chosen coincides with the choice set that is generated by the preference relation. So optimal choices generated by the preference relation coincide with what is actually chosen, but having choices that satisfy the weak axiom of revealed preference do not guarantee that there exists a rationalizing preference relation. So let's give you an example of a choice structure that satisfies warp and yet no rationalizing preference relation exists. This is example 1D1, page 13 in the textbook, Mascalel, Winston, and Green. So in this example, what do we have? We have X is revealed preferred to Y. Y is revealed preferred to Z. And Z is revealed preferred to X. So we have intransitive behavior, right? We have a cycle. We have X preferred to Y, preferred to Z, preferred to X. And yet, we can satisfy ourselves that warp is not violated. So, here X is chosen when Y was present, but it is never the case that Y is chosen when X is present, right? Here Y is chosen, but it's chosen over Z. And, here X is present, but Y is not chosen. Y is not present. And the same is true here. Y is chosen over Z, but it is never the case that Z is chosen over Y. And here Z is chosen over X, but it is never the case that X is chosen when Z is available. So we satisfy warp, and yet we have intransitive results, so we have no no rationalizing preference relation. And in fact, we'll need something stronger to ensure that there is no intransitive behavior, and that's what the strong axiom of revealed preference will do. It will rule out these situations, and it will ensure some transitive closure.